Well, I would like you guys to meet my new bus. It's a 2003 Bluebird All-American with the Cummins 8.3 liter inline 6 diesel engine and the Allison MD3060R transmission with the retarder. I just picked it up from a school district out in Wyoming. I bought it on auction for $5,200. It has 147K miles, 7,000 hours, and it's in fantastic condition. So let's hop into a tour and I'll show you what this thing has to offer. So if any of you have bought a bus on auction from a school district over 1,200 miles away, you know that the listings don't exactly give a ton of information, and it ends up being kind of a gamble a lot of times. So let's hop in here and look over some details which were not showed on the auction for me. First of all, it actually has incredible tread. And they listed the tires being in fair condition, maybe just due to their age. It's got the 11R25 size. I've been looking for the stamp on it that shows when it was made, and I honestly can't seem to find it. Maybe that's it, the 0317. So if that's the case, they're about 6 years old, which isn't too bad, but the tread is in great condition. Fronts and rears. I'm impressed. Now, one of the best features of a rear engine bus is the fact that you can get some underbody storage. My compartments do not go all the way through, however, and the reason for that being, despite this only being a 32-foot bus, check this out. I got a 100-gallon tank in this bad boy, and it's center mounted, so that's the reason for it not being pass-through storage. If you can see under there, it doesn't cover one of the bays, but it covers the front bay. So you would pretty much only be able to have pass-through on this side, but instead they just made it one long storage on either side, which I think I actually prefer, just because if it was pass-through, yes, you get some more space, but I think it would be too easy to get unorganized. It would become a junk drawer. This, I feel like, will be easier to stay organized. Heading on back to the battery compartment, I was worried about this on my trip because, as you can see, these batteries are from 2004. But, believe it or not, I drove all the way home just fine, stopping and starting several different times. These batteries are gigantic, so I can only imagine how expensive these will be to replace, and before I go on an actual trip, I'll go ahead and replace those. Hop back here under the hood, or under the tail that is, and we'll see this absolutely gigantic Cummins 8.3 straight 6. There is so much storage back here coming from my 7.3 liter T44E, T444E. It's always such a mouthful to say that. It's like, despite this engine being way bigger, it actually seems so much easier to work on than the other bus, especially due to the fact that the gigantic fan clutch and radiator and the cooling system in general is actually side mounted. You see my radiator over here. And since you're not getting the same airflow that you would get on a normal conventional bus, the fan clutch is actually turned through hydraulics. So one could say it is another point of failure. However, my temps were very, very, very consistent on my whole 1,200 mile trip home. And since all that system is mounted off to the side, it makes access to the engine actually a lot easier. Now, I don't exactly expect to have problems with the engine itself. If there's anything I've learned about the 2003 ISC era of this system, the common point of failure is actually the injection system, because it's a poorly designed computerized injection system. So we'll go down that road when we get there. Another cool feature about this bus is the fact that it came with a block heater and a battery tender, just mounted right into the side of the bus. So that's great for any cold weather starts or long-term storage. I can tend the battery and heat the block. I always think this is cool. You can actually start the bus back here with these switches. Keep on heading around. Oh, before we get around actually too far, my bus has a spoiler. And you know, I've never actually seen this on a bus before, and I've been wondering what it was for. My initial impression was maybe it's just for airflow, but it turns out that this spoiler, an airfoil, is actually for snow. It's to keep the snow load off the back and piling up over the flashers and things like that. At least that's what I read online. If I'm wrong about that, somebody please let me know, because I am curious. But that was the conclusion I came to, and it makes sense why a Wyoming bus had this, and all these other buses that I've been looking at, I've never seen that on. So coming on over to this side, once again, we got our underbody storage, tons of space. Very excited about that. I mean, if I was gonna buy a bus that didn't have this, which my last bus didn't, and I was gonna build that size of storage with locking mechanisms and trying to do as best as I can to make it look as clean as this, I would easily spend $1,000 doing that. So those are big savings getting that from factory. Here we'll check out my wiring panel, which compared to my last bus, once again, this is just better in every way imaginable. And I even have a wiring diagram with some notes on it. So that's really exciting. My other bus had no wiring diagram, and the panel itself was a complete disaster. The only mess here is just a few of these things, but that's actually because they disabled the stop sign and the flashers before I left, because that's according to Wyoming state law. And one of the funny things that I encountered on my drive home is one of these buzzers was going off, which I'm sure many of you know. I couldn't figure out what was causing it to go off. I think it was a wire shorting out, potentially from them disconnecting these terminals, I think, and just leaving it loose. Not great, because I would hit a bump and then the buzzer would start going off. So I dealt with that for about 2 hours because I was driving in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming. I didn't want to risk stopping and then have my, 19-year-old batteries not work to start the bus back up. So I drove for like 2 hours. So I got to Civilization, and then I stopped and I just cut them off and tied them up, or taped them up. All right, let's hop on into the inside of the bus now. I believe the exact length is 32.5 feet. It's kind of hard to measure. I do think that it is pretty much the shortest rear engine bus you can buy, though. I don't think there's any others as short as this, unless you get like a transit style or a super custom version. Oh yeah, hopping on into the front. This is the most rust seen anywhere on the bus is right here on these entry steps. And actually a cool thing about this is, I don't know if all Bluebird All-Americans have this, but this one has a de-icer just for those front steps. We're checking out the dash clusters. I really like the aesthetic of them. My old bus is an Amtran body, and everything about the dash is just such a mess. Got a stereo and radio that actually works. That's fun. There's also this camera monitoring recording system. There's like a DVR that records all the footage, and there's cameras all over the inside and the outside. Oh, another really cool feature, which on my last bus, we have an air operated door, which is pretty standard. But on the Amtran bus I have, when you turn the engine off, it releases all the air pressure from the door. Now on this bus, however, even when the engine's off, I have this switch that activates the air pressure, and it's locked tight. I think that's so cool. In the end, when I do the conversion, I'm probably gonna get rid of this door, sadly enough, but this door actually locks so well and doesn't have any leaks or drafts, which is such a big difference compared to my other bus. I could never close the door all the way. And actually, on that topic of this, there's even a factory lock from the outside. You put the key in and you turn this dial, and it sends this little pin up through there. and it locks the door shut. And I've never seen another bus that had this. Once again, I don't know if this is a standard thing with the Bluebird All-Americans or if it's spec'd for this one. I've never seen this lock on buses before. And I had to go through so much effort to put a master lock on the front of my air door in my other bus. I just think that's so neat. Like on my drive home, you know, I went into a couple of stores, parked at Costco, things like that, and I was able to lock the door. So that's great. Here's all the documentation I got from the school district. We got a full diagram manual for the air chair itself. We got a Allison transmission, got the Bluebird operator manual, got the warranty information from Bluebird, got a folder of service records, some extra parts and things for the radio, got the full-on engine manual from Cummins. Bill of sale, I mean, it's great, the stuff that you get when you buy it from the school district. Interior is in great condition, way, way, way better condition than the last bus I bought. Like, these roof hatches, I don't think have ever been opened. I opened them when I was trying to figure out the buzzer that was going off, and they were so hard to open. It was like they've been sealed up their whole life. And, you know, we got the rear engine. I've seen some other buses that don't have this big vent here, so that does take up a little bit more space. But once I do the roof raise and things like that, you know, maybe I make this back section like a hanging closet and then my bed out in front or something like that. I'll be able to find a creative way to work around this space, no problem. On the topic of a roof raise, this does have a rated 77-inch interior height, but me, as somebody who's 6'6", you can see how this really doesn't cut it. So my other bus, the Amtram body, it doesn't have all the info that Bluebird lists, but my other bus is for sure 6'5" interior height. And you know, 77 inches is 6'5", but this does feel a little bit less than my other bus. And I'm not sure why that is. So this might actually be 76-inch interior height, even though they listed it as 77, because I'm 78 inches tall. But you know, I'm even hitting my head here. And on my Amtram bus, I don't hit my head at all in the roof vent. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna be doing a roof raise, obviously. I'm trying to figure out what height I should actually raise it to. You know, I know a lot of people do 16 inches, so I'm trying to do the math here. If I did a 16-inch raise and I did 4 inches of insulation in the floor, would I be able to stand up on the sides? I think maybe not still, right? I don't know how that math works. I don't know how tall I am from my shoulders to the top of my head. I guess maybe I measure that and then figure it out. But it kind of makes me sad that even with the 16-inch raise, I might not be able to stand up in the sides. But you know, it'll still make so much more space for everything else. And I'll be able to actually put in like a shower and all the things that I cheaped out in on my last build. But yeah, I mean, I think that kind of wraps up the tour. I'm trying to think if I overlooked anything, but here we'll check out my wheel wells in the front. They don't look too tall. I want to say they're about 6 inches tall, so if I did 4 inches in the floor, it'd be pretty close to covering those. But yeah, I mean, there's some light surface rust on some of this hardware just on this side, but on the other sides, like these look so clean. And I'm really impressed with that because once again, compared to my other bus, all of the hardware everywhere was just so rusted out and impossible to get undone. And all of this looks so clean, actually. So yeah, next step, you know, get the demolition going. Like this is so much cleaner compared to my old bus. I really can't emphasize that enough. But yeah, you know, what comes next will reveal how much rust there actually is on this thing. I'll go over and just point out the only places I've really noticed so far. Once again, buying a bus, sight unseen, you run that risk. So I got a decent amount along the edges in the entry. That's kind of to be expected. When I look under, it's really not too bad underneath here at all. And when I just get a general overview of the underneath, it's way less rusty than my other bus, which I bought in Colorado. I know that in Wyoming they don't salt the roads, or at least they used to not salt them at all. There's a few bits and pieces of rust here in areas where maybe the paint didn't hold very well. Right there. And then like, you know, it looks like there's like a scratch in the body right here that developed like a tiny bit of surface rust. Once again, you know, just like little scratches there with the little rust developing. But when I like look under the wheel wells themselves, it's really not bad at all. It's pretty clean, all things considered. Well, I guess I could fire up the engine. That's another thing that we could go over, but hey, maybe I'll save that for another video. I think that wraps it up. 2003 Bluebird All-American, 8.3 Cummins rear engine, 32 feet long, 147K miles, 7,200 hours. Bluebird just makes things well. I mean, how good those rollers work compared to my other bus. I had to fight it to get back in. My other bus, by the way, the reason you're not seeing it right now, and the reason I own this bus now, is because after 6 years of owning it, I actually blew the engine in it, and it's in Utah. And it's in the process of getting a reman engine swapped into it. I really can't get this back in there. Anyways, yeah, so it's getting a new engine swapped into it, but it should be done pretty soon. And when it is done, and I drive it back home, I'll make another video that goes over all of the details between the two buses. Because it's actually pretty insane how much better the Bluebird is all around compared to my stupid Amtrak bus. I really hate my old bus now. The only selling point for me at this point is the fact that it's only 24 feet long and it's conventional. So it has really good ground clearance, and you know, for doing some like logging road style travel, it's just better. But that's pretty much the only thing I like about it. Everything else, I mean, even maneuvering this 32-foot beast, since it's the flat front, I actually find it so much easier because I have so much better visibility. And the only thing I really have to think about is my turning radius, you know, cutting in too soon. But other than that, I'm not really worried about anything else when driving this bus. I haven't hit any curbs. I haven't clipped any signs or anything. It seems very straightforward. And at the end of the day, you got to remember, these are made for the average bus driver to drive thousands and thousands of miles a year. So how hard can it really be, you know? And this is a 32-foot, not a 40-footer. So all in all, I'm impressed. I love it. And I don't think I'll ever go back to a front engine or conventional. I think rear engine's the way. I really do. I might keep the old 24-foot conventional shorty around just for, you know, different types of adventures. But I'm not going to view it as my home anymore. I'm going to view this as my home. So yeah, stick around for the conversion process because that's going to be lots of drama and pain and suffering and excitement. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.